Xin chào mừng quý vị đã quay trở lại với chương trình American Landing Center News. Và ngày hôm nay đồng hành cùng với tôi đó là luật sư David Enterline, một trong những luật sư vô cùng uy tín và có tiếng tăm trong ngành EB5 trong suốt nhiều năm qua. Và ngày hôm nay chúng ta sẽ được phỏng vấn với luật sư David về những chủ đề nóng nhất của EB5 trong tuần qua. Hi David, can you introduce about yourself and your firm?
Of course, Jenny. Thank you for inviting me here today.
Thank you.
My name is David Enterline, and I'm a U.S. immigration lawyer, and I specialize in the EB5 immigrant investor visa. I have an office in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and I've been practicing immigration law for over 25 years.
Wow.
Most of that time living and working in Asia.
Great.
So I believe that I'm very understanding of the Asian client and their needs, especially the EB5 investors.
Perfect. Have you worked with a lot of Vietnamese clients?
Yes, we have.
What do you think is the most difficult thing that the EB5 client in Vietnam have to face?
For the EB5 investor, the biggest challenge is source of funds, proving that the money you're using for your investment was obtained lawfully.
Right.
And also the transfer of funds from Vietnam to the actual investment project.
What is the successful rate of EB5 right now, do you know?
The numbers that are published by U.S. Immigration Service regarding the I-526 petitions are in the high 80% range, although they have slipped downward a little bit in recent years, but still a very high percentage.
Right, it's still very high compared to other programs right now, right?
Yes.
So the very hot news for the last week is President Donald Trump released an executive order suspending immigration for the next 60 days.
Right.
Is it have any effect on EB5 at all?
Actually, very interesting. There were some exclusions in that proclamation, excluding certain immigrants, and one category was EB5 investors. So they are actually excluded from the prohibition of immigration for 60 days.
Right.
So if we have any investors that are eligible for applying for their immigrant visa now, then they're not excluded.
Well, so we can say that EB5 is a very good program for investor to join in, because most of when it comes to Donald Trump, he tried to prevent immigrants come to the country, but never is the case with EB5, right? Because always creating jobs, never
Yes.
about taking jobs from others.
Yes. Well, it is true that one of President Trump's main platforms during his election campaign was an anti-immigration sentiment. The feeling that the U.S. doesn't want immigrants. Now, many people still want immigrants. They realize the value of immigrants. And it was always felt that EB5 investor immigrants were still welcome, because one of Trump's other platforms was to increase jobs and bring in foreign investment,
Right.
and that's exactly what EB5 does.
Yep.
So until the proclamation, it wasn't really 100% clear if Trump even understood or knew about EB5, but with that exclusion, it does appear that yes,
Yeah,
he's
he
actually
does,
very
right?
positive on EB5.
I think in this difficult time is actually when Trump needs EB5 the most, right? We need more
Sure.
money poured into America in order to create jobs.
Right.
Or else, where can they get more and more jobs right now? COVID-19, right? It is very serious, not in Vietnam, but extremely in America.
Yes.
Does it have any effect on EB5 processing?
Well, everything in the U.S. government has slowed down now.
Right.
The processing with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, everything has slowed down. So we must expect that there could be a delay in processing of those petitions that have been filed. And also it's important to understand that the U.S. consulates around the world right now are all basically closed, except for the most urgent emergency type of issuance of visas. So anybody who's waiting to go to the consulate, for an interview, they're going to have to wait, and we don't know how long, but
Right.
2-3 months, who knows?
It will depend on the situation of U.S., not the situation of the home country like Vietnam or Taiwan, something like that, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yep, I understand. But it's a good thing, right? Because right now we actually shouldn't travel anywhere.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. And frankly, Vietnam has done an excellent job of controlling the virus, and the people have all been very following what the government is asking them to do, and so it's a very safe place. I certainly feel safer here than if I'm in America. Americans going to take some time to get over, the major problems. So, but.
Well, even though right now America is not in a very good place in preventing this COVID-19, but we can see that they do a lot for their people, right? Yeah. At least they got people got paycheck to making sure that they can get through this time. People predict there will be a recession for the economy, but it's probably not as bad as 2009 or 2011.
Right.
Yeah, because at least government assists us on mortgage payment and things like that, so we can, hope for the better of America very soon.
Yes.
With your very experience in BFI in general, how you can tell a client to choose a good project?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of good projects in the market, and many of them are very similar.
Right.
And there's a lot of different elements to each project.
Right.
So it's important to understand first that under the EB-5 law, one of the most important criteria is the investment must be at risk. So the project or the regional center with the project, they're not able to give you any kind of a guarantee that you'll eventually get your money back.
Right.
But it's very important to look at the structure of the project and look at what their exit strategy is after they've used your money, and how are they going to repay back all the investors. Of course they can repay back the investors.
Yeah.
What are the mechanisms in order to repay? What kind of collateral will there be in order to repay? And so, of course, everybody would like to have their permanent residence, and also have a return of their investment capital.
Yep.
So look carefully at what is the structure of that, and ultimately, though, my experience is that investors that may be involved in a project that has failed and they can only receive back some of their money, or maybe none of their money, as long as they still get their permanent residence, then most of them can accept that.
So with the new law, I remember there is a clause that if you fail for your first I-526 and then you pre-apply for your I-526, then the priority date will be based on your first I-526?
Yes. With the new regulations that came out in November 21st, became effective on November 21st, 2019, there was one provision that was very favorable to investors. As you mentioned, if you have an approved I-526 petition, but then for some reason that project is going to fail and you will not be able to remove the condition and have full permanent residence, then you can file a new petition in a new project and maintain that priority date. And the priority date is the day you file the petition, and that determines your place in line for the visa.
Okay, wow, that's great. And I heard that there is a new policy release that the time of process I-526, it will depend on the visa availability of that country. Was it in effect yet?
Yes, it was going to be implemented in March.
In March.
So that after March, they would start to review and approve I-526 petitions for countries that don't have a waiting list
Right.
for the visa.
Yeah.
As you know, Vietnam investors are subject to a waiting list.
Yep.
This is just a factor of the law. There's
Right.
only every country has a quota.
Right.
And so if the country has more demand, then they must wait
Yeah.
a little longer. So for example, an investor in Vietnam, their petition may not be reviewed until it gets closer to the visa becoming available. This doesn't really affect whether the petition can be approved or not. It's just
Right.
delaying the approval.
But isn't it will have a really good positive on Vietnamese investor based on the Child Protection Act?
That's true. That is one advantage. Now, everyone would like to know if their petition's approved.
Right.
Maybe after the average processing time is 2 years now,
Yeah,
and we'd
yeah.
like to know that, then we know that everything's okay and you're just waiting for the visa. In this case, you might have to wait more than maybe 5 or 6 years in
Right.
order to find out if your petition's approved. However, as you mentioned, if you have children that have a risk of aging out, turning 21 and no longer being eligible, this actually is very positive because when they file the petition, the child's immigration age is
Yeah.
frozen.
Right.
And then it's frozen the whole time the petition is being adjudicated, or if it's just sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Instead of 2 years, then when the petition's approved, the child's age begins to move forward again. Now it could be 4 or 5 or 6 years.
Right.
So that child's age can be frozen much longer. So it will have a positive effect on protecting the children.
So, okay, sorry. So what is the other service that you can provide to the viewers?
Oh, thank you. Well, we are a full-service U.S. immigration firm,
Right.
so we can provide all services. My specialty is EB-5, and also the other business and investment visas like L1, EB-1, EB-1A, EB-1C, EB-2. You may not be familiar with what these terms refer to, but you can go to
Website.
to the website,
Yeah.
and then we also handle all family matters.
Yeah.
So if you want a petition for a relative, or you have a visa application, you have denials, refusals, we can do waivers, pretty much anything.
Perfect. Wow. Xin chân thành cảm ơn tất cả quý vị đã theo dõi chương trình ngày hôm nay, và nếu quý vị cần những dịch vụ về di trú, không chỉ riêng EB-5 mà ngay cả những dịch vụ liên quan về lao động, doanh nhân và bảo lãnh gia đình, thì ngài David đây cũng có thể sẽ hỗ trợ quý vị, và thông tin của David sẽ được để ở trang cuối của chương trình của chúng ta ngày hôm nay. Một lần nữa xin cảm ơn quý vị và xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị trong chương trình American Landing Center News lần sau.